Project Ripcord — a Vietnam fire support base in 1/72nd scale. Early on, we knew we would need a bunch of figures to populate our hilltop. Try as we may, we couldn't locate commercially available Vietnam-era U.S. Army figures. A few club members had previously used the services of one of the Shapeways stores in the past to obtain specialist figures, so we reached out to the person responsible for these little gems. Mr. Luis Hidalgo was sent a list of our needs, and we began designing and 3D printing bespoke figures and accessories. His work is superb, and his figures are part of what makes the diorama. Kevin Cook was the figure painting guru, and he turned them out quickly. There are numerous small figure vignettes on the diorama: cannoneers loading and firing, mortar men loading and firing, men unloading cargo nets and hauling ammunition, infantrymen in their fighting positions, and so much more than we have room for in this article. Several of the settings are notable. A figure of André Lucas was placed leaning on the blast wall of the TOC. He is having his photo taken by SP5 Christopher Jensen. Soldiers are shown filling sandbags, burning the latrine barrels, unloading cargo, preparing ammunition, and other routine activities. A soldier whom we identified as Rick Montgomery is playing a guitar near the mess bunker. A figure of Specialist 4 David Johnson is shown carrying 3 155mm powder tubes across his shoulders. He and Bob Kalsu used to have friendly competitions to see how many each could carry. Photos of Colonel Lucas and Specialist Johnson on Ripcord were taken by SP5 Christopher Jensen. With all of the base construction and landscaping complete, we added the final items: the canopies over the TOC, aid station, and mess bunker. The antennas along the back of the TOC bunker complex. Impact Rock. Impact Rock is the main landmark on Ripcord. Every veteran we spoke to would first ask us, "Where's Impact Rock?" Finally, we touched up the black paint on the sides of the base, and stenciled the cardinal compass headings once the black paint was dry. Everything was given a once-over to make sure all was anchored properly, and a gentle stream of air removed the dust from both components of the diorama in preparation for the move to the museum. Early on, we realized that moving this beast wasn't going to be easy. At 8 feet by 12 feet, it would not fit into any commercially available rental trucks. We tossed ideas around, and the one we finally used was to build a bespoke crate to haul the components. A platform was fitted to a utility trailer using 2x4, 1x4, and plywood. Sides and a top were built using 1x3 and masonite hardboard. On the night before the move, we gathered several people to lift the lower module off of the dolly we had built it upon and carry it to the crate platform. To our relief, it went well. The lower module was lighter than we suspected it was, and it was easy to move when you have enough hands. The sides and top were installed on the crate, and then a tarp was used to gift wrap the crate to keep wind from forcing the crate apart along the seams. The lower unit was moved to the museum on 29 February 2020. When the crate was disassembled, there was no damage. It had to be turned on its side to fit through the doors. It took a concerted effort to make sure it was tilted smoothly and slowly onto the dolly. It was wheeled into the museum, and tilted flat for the final trip to the plinth the museum provided. To our immense relief, the only damage of note was a 1-inch section of dirhams along the north edge that chipped. The shards were recovered and glued back into place. You cannot tell it was ever out of sorts. With that accomplished, the crate sides and top were placed on the trailer, strapped down, and took a trip back to the workshop to retrieve the top module. The top module, being much smaller and lighter, didn't create as much anxiety to crate. It was secured to the deck, the crate reassembled around it, and it too made the ride to the museum. It was quickly uncrated and moved to the display space, where it was permanently married to the lower component of the diorama. The seam between the components was stuffed with shims cut from pink foam and then covered with dirhams. The putty was smoothed and allowed to dry overnight. Over the next few days, the seam area was painted, stumps were installed and painted, the ground cover was applied, and the wire was completed. Anything needing touch-up or minor repairs was addressed. The helicopters, quad 50 caliber trailer, and the radar were the final items added. The radar was interesting, since its location was not within arm's reach. Jeff couldn't get it delivered before we added the top to the bottom, so we rigged a scaffold and installed the radar unit as the cherry on the sundae. We did a final walk around and addressed the items that needed attention. Jeff Nelson, determined not to leave any detail undone, no matter how small, produced a 1/72nd scale version of the situation map present on photos of Ripcord. It was added to the blast screen at the TOC entrance, and with that, our 2.5-year odyssey came to an end. Photo of Colonel Lucas Credit. SP5 Christopher Jensen. A photo shoot followed, and we turned the display over to the museum staff to install the acrylic case. The official unveiling was to take place on the 28th of March. However, the COVID-19 pandemic saw the event cancelled, with a rescheduled date to be determined.